The first book of Moses, Bereshith, chapter 1, first creation by Elohim. In the former time periods, as a powerful sign of working, chief son and heir Elohim filled with choice things, behold, as a sign Shemayim, the place of the names, and behold, as a sign Aratz, the chief place of running. But observe how Aratz was unorganized and empty, and Shishak rose up from the deep waters, went up to its face, but the Ruach Elohim, as a wall of protection, moved violently upon the surface of the waters. Elohim then declared, light he will exist, and light he will exist. And Elohim gazed upon that beautiful light, and Elohim made distinctive the light from the darkness. And to the light Elohim called out the name Ya'um, and to the darkness he called out the name Leah Laha. This was the close and the dawn of the first age.
The Ketub Abarayath, or the Paleo Hebrew, is a language over 5,000 years old. It chronicles a story branching forth from ancient time. His story, Yahweh. Walk into his story. Read the Paleo Hebrew scriptures.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm happy to be here. What a joy it is to be here. I hope you are happy as well, finding your Sabbath rest or whenever you find your Sabbath. And of course, I do recognize that many of you are still in the fall feast. My understanding is that some of you have either kept Yom Kippur, a Day of Atonement, either yesterday or today. I am all the way through Sukkot. I, of course, have been keeping the new moon according to the full moon. Not getting into that tonight, but this is the second cycle that we have attempted here at the Unexpected Cosmology of the Torah portions. I took a year off. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that in the upcoming minutes. But the thing is about the Torah portions is that it's like sink or swim. It's like you take the polar bear plunge into the deep end of the pool and you doggy paddle with a leg cramp for the following year, just trying to keep up in the currents of, going through like 5 or 6 chapters of meaty scripture every single week. So I did this a year ago. And at the end of it, I'm like, I need a break from the Torah portions. And the primary reason was that I told you at the time, this was a year ago, that I wanted to take my time going verse by verse through scripture. I was like, I'm going to take 3.5, 4 years to go through the Torah. And that didn't happen. And here's why. I got stuck in Genesis 1 through 6. A lot of people started thinking that I wasn't even in it anymore. Oh, I was in it all year, guys. I mean, even like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was still talking on the Leviathan from Genesis chapter 1. I've been in it all year, and I got stuck in this like vacuum in Genesis 1 through 6. I'm like, how do I started asking you guys, I don't know how to get out of this thing. I have stated in the past that the first week of the Torah portion, Genesis 1 through 6:8, is like the most meaty passage of almost all scripture, because going all the way to Revelation, going through the whole Old Testament, through the Apocrypha, through the extra biblical books, through the Gospels and the epistles, all the way up to Revelation, all the themes that you can find in the Bible can be discovered in this segment of scripture. And whoever came up with this Torah portion must have been, I'll be nice, but I mean, like, why didn't they end it at the end of chapter 5? Why did they have to go into the Nephilim passage of Genesis 6, 1 through verse 8? Like, why did they have to do that? Why couldn't they have saved that for the second week? All that to say is I'm feeling pretty good tonight. And here's why. I just spent a whole year talking about Genesis 1 through 6. So this is all going to be review for you guys. I'll be reading through this portion and explaining some things, but don't even think for a second. I mean, if there are things that you want me to cover tonight, it's not going to happen. It very likely, maybe it will happen. Maybe I will cover something you want to talk about, but it's not very likely considering how much that they pack in just 1 through 6. Capiche? Got it? Well, anyways, I'm coming to you this week from beautiful Italy, in Tuscany. And you've heard of the land that is flowing with milk and honey. Well, this place in Tuscany is quite literally, I think I can say quite literally, flowing with wine and olive oil. I love Tuscany. I've been spending a lot of time in Florence this week, getting to know Michelangelo, David, very up close. And of course, Pisa. And then this next week, I'll be in Rome doing a lot of investigation out there, checking out places. And I thank you everybody for giving me the last 2 or 3 weeks off. I really needed it. And it's been a very busy, hectic schedule. We left Germany. We drove into Poland. I went to Auschwitz, wink, wink, did a lot of investigative work there over 2 days. Over at Auschwitz. Maybe someday I will talk publicly about my experience there. Went to the Stalag Luft 3 camp, which was awesome. That's where the Great Escape took place. I was in Poland. Went out to Krakow. That's where Oskar Schindler's factory was. Went to the Jewish ghetto there. Went down to the Czech Republic, to Prague. That's where the Prague clock was. And we actually had a place for about 4 days that was literally, I'm going to use that word again, literally right around the corner from the Prague clock. It was unbelievable. I went down there every morning when it started chiming, and I was there. I said good morning to the Prague clock. I was there to say good night to the Prague clock before I went to bed every single day. Great time. From there, I went back to Germany, down to Austria, to Salzburg, back up to Munich, back down to Salzburg, back up to Munich, back down to Salzburg. I think I went into Germany again, back through Austria, down into Italy. Here we are. And before we know it, my epic trip through Europe will be over. I'll be back in the United States very soon. Let's get into it tonight because we have, as you can imagine, a lot to cover. I do want to point out, this is kind of interesting because we're talking tonight about creation, recreation, and this is a very popular passage for young earth creationists. I'm no longer a young earth creationist. I'm completely okay with young earth creationists. They have their perfect right to investigate from their angle. And I grew up as one. But you can see right here, this is Tuck Magazine. I brought back Tuck Magazine, guys, and a lot of people were asking about it. This is issue number 11. And the head article is by Egger Trollip. He's put out several articles, research papers with Tuck, and I think that this is his absolute best. It's called The Dino Deception. That's the headline article in there. Now, I don't know how I feel about that myself. I really don't know. I don't know if dinosaurs existed or not. But he is of the persuasion that they did not. And I think it's an excellent article. And of course, he was banking off my Wastelands of the Seraphim article, which I also included here. So go check that out. And also, if you check there on the left, I will be talking more about this in the upcoming weeks. Stay Up All Night. It is my premiere novel with Shelves of Shalom, coming out in November of this year in just a few weeks to celebrate the 25th anniversary of when I started to write this thing. So this has been my entire adult life, basically plotting this out and coming up with it. And I'm really excited to get out. You can pre-order it now. It is available. And let's start with the Lord's Prayer. I'll read over the KJV, the standard, and then we'll do the Paleo. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And then reading over here from the from Paleo Matthew. Our Father, set apart is your name, and your royal dominion, your pleasure, your delight, you will exist in Shamayam and in Aratz. And give us our bread continually, and pardon our faults, our sins and missteps, in the same manner in which we forgive those who commit faults, sins, missteps against us. And do not bring us into the hands of testing, but guard us from all evil. Amen. Well, let's go ahead and do it now. This year, I think there's obviously a lot of power in just reading. In fact, when I was studying for this week, I made sure to read it out loud. And I have put that out there for you guys as well, that when you read scripture, I'm not telling you have to do this. It's just a recommendation. Give it a try. Read it out loud. Read scripture out loud and see where that gets you. See if you understand it better. I mean, there's power in it. So this year, I'm going to be at least giving a try starting out. I'm going to read from the KJV and then the Paleo Hebrew. And of course, we want to emphasize here the Paleo Hebrew. We're working with Pamela Glasgow to translate, hopefully, the entire Bible through the Paleo Hebrew transition process. And of course, we have the entire Torah completed. She's, I think, just weeks away from getting Joshua out, which is really exciting. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be making sure to cover that on this channel. The beginning. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmaments of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding fruit, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So jumping up here, we're going to read from the Paleo Hebrew. I particularly want to do this the first week. And I want to just contrast, and you could, of course, you can see these side by side. And I do want to remind everybody that we have, as part of our ministry here, what I call the Torah portion study guides, Genesis through Deuteronomy, in which case you can see this right here, the KJV with the Paleo Hebrew lined up side by side, and the Greek LXX with the Aramaic Targum. So it's not like you're just getting 4 different translations, NASB with the KJV and NIV. You're literally getting 4 different biblical traditions side by side for your study needs. In periods, as a powerful sign of working, chief son and heir Allahayam filled with choice things. Behold as a sign, Shamayam, the place of the names, and behold as a sign, Aratz, the chief place of running. But observe, Ha-Aratz was unorganized and empty, and darkness rose up from the deep waters, went up to its face. But the Ruach Allahayam, as a wall of protection, moved violently upon the surface of the waters. Allahayam then declared, light he will exist, and light he will exist. And Allahayam gazed upon that beautiful light, and Allahayam divided the light from the darkness. And to the light, Allahayam gave the name of Ya'wam, and to the darkness he gave the name of Le'elah. This was the close and the dawn of the first age. Allahayam also declared he will exist, Rakuya'ah, between the waters, and that would be the firmament. And let it be a division between the waters and the waters. And Allahayam made the Rakuya'ah, and it divided the waters which were above the Rakuya'ah, and it was done. And Allahayam named the expanse Ha-Shamayam. This was the close and the dawn of the second age. Allahayam then commanded, let the waters below Ha-Shamayam be collected in one place, and let dry land appear. And that was done. And Allahayam named the dry land Aratz, and the accumulated waters he named Yamayam, seas. And Allahayam admired their beauty. Allahayam then declared, let the Ha-Aratz produce seed-bearing vegetation, as well as fruit trees according to their several species, capable of reproducing upon Ha-Aratz. And that was done. The Ha-Aratz produced the seed-bearing herbage according to every species of reproductive fruit trees, and Allahayam saw that it was good. This was the close and the dawn of the third age. Allahayam further declared, let there exist from lights in the expanse of Ha-Shamayam for a division between the day and the night, and let them serve to mark seasons, periods, and years, and let them also illuminate the expanse of the sky so as to gift light upon Ha-Aratz. And that was done. Allahayam made 2 lights from light, the greater from light to have dominion over the day, and the smaller from light to control the night, accompanied by the stars. And Allahayam had fixed them in the expanse so as to illuminate Ha-Aratz, to have dominion over the day and to have dominion over the night, and to mark the division between the light and the darkness. And Allahayam saw they were beautiful. This was the close and the dawn of the fourth age. Allahayam then said, let the waters be swarming with animal life, and let winged fowl fly above Ha'aratz over the face of the expanse, Ha-Shamayam. Allahayam accordingly produced the monsters of the deep, Thunu Uyanum, or dragons, and the waters abounded with living Nephash swarmers, and also produced every species of winged fowl. And Allahayam admired their beauty. And Allahayam, he did barak them, declaring, be fruitful, multiply, so as to fill the waters of the deep, and also let the birds multiply upon Aratz. This was the close and the dawn of the fifth age. Allahayam then declared, let Ha'aratz produce living Nephash according to its species, quadrupeds, reptiles, and all wild animals, answering to their species. And that was done. Allahayam accordingly made the various species of the animals of Ha'aratz, as well as several species of quadrupeds and all the different species of reptiles. And Allahayam admired their beauty. Allahayam then declared, let us fashion Adam under our shadow, like our appearance, and subject to them the fish of the waters, and the winged fowl of Ha-Shamayam, and the quadrupeds, as well as the whole of Ha'aratz, and every creeping reptile that creeps upon it. So Allahayam created Adam under his own shadow, creating them in the shadow of Allahayam, and constituting them male and female. Allahayam is a powerful sign. He did barak them. And Allahayam declared to them, be fruitful and multiply, so as to fill Ha'aratz and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of Ha-Shamayam, and over every living animal that moves upon Ha'aratz. Allahayam also declared, see, I have given you for food every fruit and grain-bearing plant upon the surface of the whole Aratz, as well as fruit and seed-bearing trees and all vegetation, so that they may be food for you, and for every animal of Ha'aratz, and for every winged fowl of the skies, and for every reptile upon Ha'aratz, which possesses the life of animals. And it was done. And Allahayam gazed upon all that he had made, and it was very beautiful. Thus the close came of the sixth age. I've shown this chart here several times to everybody, and I'm not here to argue the existence of dinosaurs with you guys today. Of course, as you guys know, dragons. Years ago, this used to always bother me growing up, stuff like this. And I've listened to the young earth creationists give their arguments. No, I do not believe that this is a hoax perpetrated by the archaeological community, the greater worldwide community. Even the young earth creationists will agree that the certain quote unquote dinosaurs are found in either the Jurassic or the Cretaceous or the Triassic, the whole Mesozoic period there. One thing that is coming to light, however, is that there are you will find them buried next to beavers and rabbits and things like that. That there were other animals that were living with them. The evolutionary community is a little bit slower at admitting to some of those facts in the textbooks. However, there does seem to be a consistent theme just by observation. You can go out there and you can observe this and see these different layers, that there appears to be two major extinction events in history. The first would be separating the Paleozoic from the Mesozoic, and then the second would be the Mesozoic to the our modern age today, the Cenozoic. And in fact, up there above in the top layers is what I would say is Noah's flood. And the reason I'm showing this to you, actually, this one here maybe is a little bit better of a chart, just to show you the different types of creatures they're finding in here. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. But reading through Genesis now, I am completely convinced that it is a recreation event. And so I think that one of the pieces of information that younger earth creationists get wrong is that they assume that Allahayam or Yahweh is telling you the complete history of the world, and he is not. The book of Genesis, actually the complete Torah, actually the entire Bible from beginning to end, going all the way up to Messiah, to the 70 AD generation, is giving you, it is crafting together a quilt of family history, of father to son to son to son to son to son. And in this case, it goes all the way back to Adam, and not just to Adam, but to Yahweh. Now, if you paid attention, Adam, the Adam and Eve that we know about from the garden have not actually technically entered the scene yet. We have seen man and woman coming into the fold. I should say men and women, excuse me, plural, men and women. The story of Genesis, this recreation event, is only concerned with Yahweh. All right, so let's go back over this really quickly. And this is the exciting part, because this is Yahweh who formed Adam and breathed into him the breath of life. So we see right here in Genesis 1:1. And I do really love the fact that Pamela decided to say age instead of day. Now, one of the things I do of the 2 or 3 years worth of material that it would take me to get through Genesis 1 through 6, and I'm not going to do that tonight. One of the things I do want to cover tonight is just giving you and I'm back on. All right. One of the things I want to do for you, hopefully I'm back on for everyone. One of the things I want to do for you guys tonight. Here, hold on. Let me pull this up. That threw me off. Now I can't find it. Here we go. That's not it. There we are. All right. In periods is a powerful sign of working. Chief, son, and heir, Elohim, filled with choice things. Behold, as a sign, Shamayam, the place of the name. So behold, as a sign, Aratz, the chief place of running. What we see here going into verse 2, right? We see that the earth is unorganized. Something happened. It turns on the light switch. There's just water everywhere. As you guys know, goes completely against the Big Bang model. I'm not going to be discussing Hebrew cosmology tonight. That's one of the things I did do this last year. I took a few weeks to talk about the firmament and Hebrew cosmology. But we see here that the revelation is, the declaration is brought forward that the heir of creation of the world is the son of Elohim. He is here in the opening passage, and immediately when of course that's my belief that Yahweh is the son. Now those are fighting words for some people. I do not believe that Yahweh is the father. I believe that Yahweh is literally Yahshua, Messiah, the God of the Old Testament. The one we're going to be reading throughout the entire Torah this year is Yahshua. He was the one that was declared in the creation week. Now, if you disagree with that, fine, we can still be friends. I could be totally wrong about this. To me, it makes the most sense. I've spent my whole life, hearing people say, where's Jesus in the Old Testament? Oh my goodness, I can't find him. He's not there, and you have to like squint your eyes and try. It's like, no, he's on every page, guys. Yahshua, Messiah, he is on every single page. He is declared page 1 to be the heir, the king of creation. And what do we see happening? We see this creature from the Black Lagoon come out of the abyss to challenge him. And immediately the Ruach of Elohim, I believe this is wisdom. I believe this is our mother in heaven, the Ruach HaKodesh, goes over there to protect her son. And, you see the whole family effort here. As you guys can see, there's no possible way that I can cover all this tonight. So let's just get into chapter 2. Hopefully I won't have many more technical issues tonight. You never know when you're live. Once again, reading from the KJV, and then we'll head over to the Paleo. And I'm purposely saving a lot of the commentary for the end because, as you guys know, we'd be here all night. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day that, this is the Lord God, but I'll just go ahead and say Yahweh. God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh, God, or Elohim, had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh, God, formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh, God, planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from thence it was parted and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pison. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And Yahweh, God, took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh, God, commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. And Yahweh, God, said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Yahweh God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called them, every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And Yahweh caused God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed upon the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. Going back up here to the Paleo. Thus Ha-Shamayam and Ha-Aratz were completed, as well as their armies. And Elohim rested at the seventh age from all the works which he had made. And therefore Elohim, he did Barak the seventh day, and he did Kudash it, because he then rested from all the work which Elohim had arranged to do. These were the productions for Ha-Shamayam, the place of the names, heavens, and Ha'arat, the chief place of running earth. And during their creation at the period of the organization by Yahweh Elohim of both Ha'arat and Ha-Shamayam, and over every plant of the field before it was upon the earth, and every herb of the field before he caused it to grow, even before Yahweh Elohim, the ever-living Elohim, had scattered them upon Ha'arat. And Adam existed not to cultivate the earth. A vapor then rose from the earth and saturated the whole surface of the ground. quick note here. It's kind of interesting that when you read Anunnaki literature, Mesopotamian, Sumerian tablets, they cover all this. They talk about the same thing, how the whole earth was saturated in this kind of mist. Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, afterwards formed Adam from the dust of Ha-Adamaha and breathed into his nostrils the breath of lives. That's plural, lives. And he did exist, Adam, a living Nephash. Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, then planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he placed the Adam whom he had formed. And out of the ground, Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, caused to grow all the trees that were beautiful, excellent, and functional for food, as well as the tree of lives in the center of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A lake also sprang up in Eden to supply the garden with water, and from there it divided and became 4 sources. The name of the first is Fayashawan and flows along the land of Ha-Wa-Yalaha, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is pure. There are also bdellium and the onyx. And the second river is Gaia Ha-Wan, and it flows along all the land of Kawash. The name of the third river is Harakul, which flows to the east of Asha-Ur. And the fourth river is Fereth. And Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, then took the Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden for the purpose of cultivating and taking care of it. And Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, instructed the Adam, saying, for food you may eat of the whole of the trees of the garden, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, because in the day you eat from it, dying you shall die. Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, also said, it is not good for the Adam to be in solitude. I will make a comforter to live with him. Therefore, Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, who had formed out of the ground every animal of the field as well as every winged fowl of Ha-Shamayam, took them to the Adam to see what he would name them. And whatever the Adam with the living Nephash called them, that was their name. So the Adam gave names to all the quadrupeds and all the birds of the sky and to all the wild animals, but it was no comfort for the Adam to be with them. Therefore, Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, threw the Adam into a stupor, and he slept. And taking one of his side chambers, he closed up the flesh in its place. And from the side chamber, which Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, had taken out of the Adam, he constructed a woman and brought her to the Adam. And the Adam declared, this form is bone of my own bone and flesh of my own flesh. This shall be called Ashaha, woman, because she was taken from Ayash, man. Man shall therefore leave his father and his mother and shall unite with his covenant woman, and they shall be La Bashar Akkad, one in will and purpose to proclaim glad tidings. And they were naked, the Adam and his covenant woman, but they were not ashamed. All right, so just a couple of things to notice about this chapter. We've got a second creation account going here. And of course, it helps to, there's all these different theories out there about, did the Hebrews, they were constructing, kind of like doing a second edition of Moses's Torah. You hear this a lot on the History Channel. Did they couldn't really agree on a creation story or whatever, and they just stitched two together. It seems pretty clear to me that you're actually seeing here that this is a special, unique creation by Yahweh. In fact, he's not mentioned in chapter 1. He is first mentioned here as specifically planting this garden. It's part of his project. We will read in other books. We're not going to cover it tonight, but you will read in other books like Third Baruch, I believe it is, that this was actually a project with many of his angels. And in fact, I would say these are the Anunnaki. And when you read Sumerian literature, it's the same way, where they talk about the Anunnaki all have this part in the creative process, meaning that, he is the head manager, Yahweh, and he's like, okay, this is what I want to get done. A, B, C, D. Like you build this, you build that. You're in charge of that. And we know that, again, according to third Baruch, that different angels were in charge of different trees. Satanael / Azazel planted the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That was, of course, grapes. He planted grape tree. And was it Michael planted the olive tree, and so on and so forth. Yeah, there was so much in here, and I'm almost doing I don't know what the greater disservice is here, just reading the entire chapter without commenting on it, or pausing to comment on it. There's so much I want to talk about here. The other thing I wanted to mention is one of the really enlightening things for me when I was reading Sumerian literature is they talk about how the sheep were a special gift of the Anunnaki to Cain and Abel. That it was actually before Cain and Abel, there were no sheep on the earth. They came directly from heaven. Now I'll probably be covering more of this when we finally get to Abraham with the sacrifice of Yitzhak that never happened, and the ram was there that came down from heaven. It's the same thing. We can source this in the Bible and show that it's legit. So when you think about sheep, and there's of course a point to this, but when you think about sheep, I think about this all the time, that these are heavenly creatures. They originate from heaven. And who would have specifically created these sheep is Yahweh. But it seems that when we're looking at Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, that all these things aren't necessarily being created. We use the word recreation, but in fact, there are storehouses up in heaven where Yahweh is managing this whole thing and be like, okay, let's take that out of the storage, and let's take that and that, and let's replenish the earth with all of these things, including many of the animals. And this goes into my theory on dinosaurs. Now, if you read my paper on the Wastelands of the Seraphim, I've been very upfront and said that dragons are spiritual entities. They are obviously connected with seraphim angels, hence the title, Wastelands of the Seraphim. You go out to the wastelands, the desert places, that's where they live. That's where the dragons live. It's always been that way. Of course, there's good dragons and there's bad dragons, and I sometimes wonder, what if these fossils? I have interviewed enough archaeologists who I believe are legitimate people. No, they're not Freemasons. They're anti-Freemason. They are anti-establishment. They are Christian individuals who are out there and they're claiming to find these, sauropods and all these kind of things. But I've wondered if these were what we would call the angelic creatures today, but they were maybe they were highly intelligent. I don't know, but from a different age, right? So they were never in our age, but they were from a former age that were destroyed. And of course, here we see with the coming down of Eve, I have quoted, and I just said coming down of Eve from heaven. I've quoted from this so much that I'm not going to do it again. In a few weeks, I'll be going over Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and the Rapunzel and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, I'll do a show with Jenna. But this is the birth of the fairy tale right here. Carl Jung talks about how he opened it up for me when I was reading his commentary on fairy tales. And it's like, if you can understand that they're the subconscious below the current, the below the surface of the water, the stuff you can't see underneath necessarily, you have to fish for it down there. They're your dreams. And people will talk all the time about, fairy tales are so pagan. It's like, well, you know what? How pagan are your dreams? Like, how about you just tell us all about your dreams? There's some pretty frightening dreams that we've all had, aren't there? Imagine if you had to make your dreams public. But that's what the fairy tale is. Yes, it does have crossroads with religion and mythology. But man, my camera is flickering tonight. Hopefully, I'm not freezing up for you guys too much tonight. But it ultimately, the princess, the Disney princess, it goes back to this moment here when Eve came down to the earth to become or to the garden with Adam to be his helpmeet, his partner, and to inspire him to reach up, to really inspire humanity to reach up to heaven, to our heavenly calling. So there's that. Now, this is one thing I really want to focus on today. This comes from James, who last night he gave an amazing talk on the 7,000-year timeline deception. It was just mind-blowing. If you want to check out last night's Chiliasm, which was the earliest Christian eschatology on record for the first few hundred years, where they all believed that there would be that there were 500 years to go for Messiah. That is well documented, and that in the 500s they predicted it down to the very decade of when Rome would fall and when the millennial kingdom would be ushered in. And so it was within Second Peter specifically that some of the church fathers who were with Rome, in bed with Rome, they wanted that removed from canon, because it was in there where Peter clearly lays out a day, 1,000 years scenario. And we read that here where Yahweh says, if you eat from this fruit, you will, like, on the day that you will eat of it, you will die. Now, I actually do happen to agree with the other theologians out there that that there was a literalness to that actual 24-hour period, that he did spiritually die on that day. Dying, you will die, right? That's the way we can translate. Dying on this day, you will die. However, we see that he lived, what was it, 930 years, I think it was. We'll read that tonight, the exact numbers. And so you can see there that in the first 1,000 years is an actual day. Since we have gone through the creation week, let's go ahead, and this is the onion layers I was telling you about, that that I have no problem believing that there was a literal 7-day period when he did all that. That might very well be true. Then again, it might be. It could be thousands of years each. I don't know. I wasn't there. When I start the count of the 7,000-year timeline deception, I was like, oh, I start from Adam. I don't start from the first day of creation. I start from Adam. And so even though the Copernican revolution and evolution completely botches creation, where again, right, like he flips on the light switch on the first day, it just all of cosmology, it's just water, right? It's not a big bang explosion of stars going everywhere. You have a huge problem with the Copernican revolution, obviously, if setting aside the fact whether the earth is a globe or not, and I don't believe it is. I believe it is flat, pancake shaped. Setting that aside, you have a huge problem if the earth is formed first and the sun doesn't even appear for so many days or ages, and then all of a sudden, the earth starts spinning around it after so many days, right? That doesn't make sense. But let's just look at some of this stuff here. So this was the chart that James came up with. All credit goes to him. I'm going to be putting this into a future edition of the 7,000-year timeline deception. This was so good. So starting here on day one, we see that there was a separation of light and darkness. We know that there was, I believe that, again, that was a literal separation, not just of day and night, but that it was when the light was brought forth, Yahshua or Yahweh was declared to creation. And there was a separation there of the individual we know as Satan. There's the 5 Satans or what have you, Azazel and his whole crew, and that they were separated, right? But the same thing happened in the 1,000 years. We have like the separation of the sons of Cain from the sons of Seth, which we haven't gone to yet. But we see that on day one, there's a separation of light and darkness. And so going into you can see that's the first row of boxes there is that, the quote unquote 24-hour day period, right? The second one we see here is the days of the cosmic week in 1,000 years. So we see that the kingdoms of light and darkness are formed by the sin of mankind. This would be 1 to 1,000 in the Greek LXX. Quickly point out for those of you who are still on the Masoretic, that the Masoretic is off by so many thousands of years, like 1,500 years, that it does not line up with what we're going to be talking about here. It's like Noah's flood, I think, was something like in the Masoretic, like 1,600 years after Adam, whereas it was more like 2,200 years in the Greek LXX. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with, well, let's keep looking here. So day 2, we have Yahweh, or I should say Allahayam, excuse me, establishes the boundaries of heaven and earth. He puts in the rakia, the firmament right there. So we see that in the 1,000 years, this would be the year 1001 to 2000, the sons of Allahayam violate the ordained boundaries of the earth. This is going into Genesis 6 territory. This would be the watchers coming down, creating the Nephilim. Day 3, Allahayam gathered the waters and formed the land. Then he covered the surface with vegetation. Well, according to the day 1,000-year theory, from the year 2001 to 3000, the earth is put back through water. The Tower of Babel scatters mankind. All right, so you have the same thing, right? So the flood story, like again, 2100, 2200, something like that. I'm not sure on the exact dates. Oh, he actually has it right here, flood 2256. And then afterwards, again, we have another type of almost, again, it's almost like, I don't know, day 1, 2, whatever, rehearsed again at the Tower of Babel. But day 4, God, or Allahayam, places all the lights into the heavens to govern the earth. This one really got me excited when I saw the connection with Abraham. We'll be getting there in several weeks in the Torah portions. Abraham and Joseph received promises and visions that they will rule from heaven from 3001 to 4000. Day 5, Allahayam created the beasts of the sea and the birds of the sky. Well, the Torah are delivered, the 5 books of the law are delivered in day 5, or the 4 to 5,000. Given on Mount Sinai, Israel is oppressed by nations symbolized by bird and fish. So one of the things that James brought up that was really fascinating is that when the governments of the world are starting to be called beast during the 5th and 6th days of the 1,000 years. You guys know about the visions of, Daniel, the 4 beasts, and then of course Revelation as well. And the idea is that mankind was designed to rule over the beasts of the earth, but now the beasts rule over mankind. It's all flipped and inverted. And isn't it interesting too that you have 4,000 years at least of recreation that goes by, starting from Adam, before the marriage ceremony with Israel at Mount Sinai and the giving of the Torah. Now, one of the things I will be covering, I'm going to do maybe a more proper introduction of the Torah portions in a few weeks, because you got to let the dust settle of the gunshot sprint. You got to charge into this. But it fascinates me that he waited 4,000 years to deliver the Torah. When the Torah existed before day 1, it existed before the beginning of any of the creations. I think we're probably at least, if we're not the 3rd or the 4th, maybe the 6th or 7th at this point. I think there have been so many different creations before us, and I think that the records are there. And of course, we will be seeing this year, I'll be talking about this a lot, that if the Torah did not exist, if the law of heaven did not exist, then you can't. Sodom and Gomorrah, they're not guilty. The sins before the flood, they're not guilty. Cain killing Abel, he's not guilty. You can't have all these things. They can't be wrong if there is no law, right? Because we know, according to 1 John, sin is a transgression of the Torah. We will be talking about this all year. All right, day 6. Allahayam creates the beast of the earth, and he creates the first Adam and Eve marriage. Now, I'm not sure if Adam and Eve were married on day 6. Or if the Adam and Eve we're talking about was even much later, I don't really know. But I think the principle still applies. He created men and women, and he brought them together, and they were intended to wed each other on the 6th day. So whether Adam and Eve existed on the actual literal 6th day, or they came like on the 8th day, or later on, is irrelevant to the fact that the principle is laid down. So this is what we read further on about the 1,000 years. Empire symbolized by beast, but we already saw that with the 5th day. But Messiah and his church are revealed. Of course, Messiah defeats Rome. This would be from 5,000 to 6,000. So Messiah appeared in the year 5,500. And then, of course, the millennial kingdom is ushered in around the year 6,000. And that's just a beautiful picture when you think about it. That people will argue, oh, New Jerusalem is the bride or whatever. It's like, well, I think that's kind of missing the point that we are the living stones, and we are the church is the bride. I'll say it. Some people disagree with me. That's maybe people maybe reject that because it's like mainstream church, theology. Well, I don't think they're wrong about that. We are the bride, and he came to marry his bride. And Israel is his bride. We are Israel. So it is a marriage ceremony, the giving of the Torah at Sinai, as well as the renewal at Pentecost. And isn't that a beautiful picture? That Paul got it. Paul got the whole thing. He is the second Adam, the last Adam. He came to fulfill what Adam failed to do the first time. And beautiful picture. And then, of course, day 7, Elohim blessed the 7th day and hallowed it and rested from his work. What about you guys? Are you guys keeping the 7th day? I hope so. Shabbat shalom to everybody. And of course, we know that Satan is locked up for the 1,000 years, and that the saints rule for 1,000 years. It's a literal 1,000 years of rest that I believe started in 5,500 to lasting to Messiah came in 5,500. It started from 500 AD going to 1,500 AD, or from 6,000 to 7,000 roughly. Anything else I can add to that? Oh yeah, of course, as you guys know, that there is no end to the 7th day. It is something maybe you picked up when I read through it. And even Pamela, she didn't put that was the end of the age or anything like that. It was open-ended, which is really, really, really fascinating. So what does that mean for us, right? And of course, there's day 8. Death is defeated and Messiah is raised from the dead. That's classic early church theology. I do believe that Messiah was raised from the dead on Sabbath, but I've considered both positions. I mean, it could be correct. It could be correct. And it all depends. We're going to get into when does the day begin? Is it nightfall or whatever? I don't know, guys. I really don't know. Just let's say, for sake of argument, that he resurrected. He is Lord of the Sabbath. He resurrected on Sabbath. Nevertheless, we can still say he is the 8th day man. What does the 8th day man mean? We will be covering that. Just stay with me through these Torah portions. We will be looking at a lot of 8th day stuff. And for those of you that are in the fall feast right now, or maybe you just have finished it, the 8th great day of Sukkot, it's awesome. I am looking forward to the 8th day of creation, which, if we are on this timeline right here, we are at some point in the 1,000. We appear to be at some point in the 1,000 years of the 8th day. And 1,000 years is a long time, guys. Maybe we will live to see the end of it. I'm not pushing that message. I am pushing a message that we are here on this earth to serve Yah, and that we need to honor him and love him and enjoy this work, and do it for the love of the service. I'll be honest. I finished up my notes for tonight a little early, and I decided to, zoom around YouTube, see what people are talking about. And I totally forgot. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's Day of Atonement. The rapture talk was everywhere out there. I started getting high anxiety because they're like, this is it. The rapture's about to happen. And you see on all the comment sections, they're like, I hate this life. I just want to get taken out of here. And it's such a defeatist attitude, guys. Even for those of you, I would encourage everyone out there who you're like, yeah, the rapture's false theology, whatever. But the earth is going to end or whatever. Yeah, maybe it is, but there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. All we can do is live our life to serve Yah now, and hopefully this year's Torah portions will encourage that. Let's get back into this. Chapter 3, Genesis, reading from the KJV first. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh, God, had made. I recognize that it's kind of strange to say Yahweh, God. It feels unnatural to me. Maybe it feels unnatural for you to say that. I have decided that when I'm going to read the KJV this year, I'm just going to say his name. I'll say Yahshua or Yahweh. Because I just, I don't like saying the Lord. It's so impersonal and it might have other implications. But in terms of, and he wants us to say our name. He didn't put it there so that we would hide it. Like he wants us, he didn't put in scripture like thousands of times. Was it 7,000 or something like that? Just an insane number of times for us to hide it. But I am saying God and the rest in the KJV just so that we can specifically contrast the Paleo. And I think that's important. So let's keep reading. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. By the way, Satan is scouting for information here. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. I don't want to pause for too much commentary, but I just do want to point out here, this is a good reason, a very good reason not to answer. Like, you can, she had Miranda rights. She could have, said like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to answer your questions, because when you answer questions to Satan, you put yourself under his authority. And that's unfortunately what Eve did. And he really was scouting for information. I don't think he knew. And I have reasons. I won't be going over that tonight. I've covered that in the past. And it could have been a very different story. So you can even think about that with just, some earthly authority as well, that when you answer the questions, you put yourself under their authority. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahweh, God, walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife and themselves hid themselves in the presence of Yahweh, God, amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahweh, God, called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou should not eat? Classic parent tactic. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God, I just did it right there. And Yahweh God said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And Yahweh God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. First prophecy of the Bible. Unto the woman he said, also a covenant too. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweats of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return into the ground. For out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh God make coats of skins and clothe them. And Yahweh God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, Yahweh God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. You're going to have a kind of freak out nerd moment there at the very end, I think, when we read from the Paleo. Or if you don't, I will. I'll have it for you. The temptation of Chawaha, or Eve. Now, Nakash, the serpent, that slippery old serpent, was more impudent than any of the wild animals of the field, which Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, had made. So he asked the woman, Is it true that Allahayam has said you may not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman replied to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, Allahayam has said, Do not eat of it, and do not even touch it, lest you die. But the serpent answered, and that's where, people have argued that point, whether she added to the command or not there. Do not even touch it. Kind of interesting. But the serpent answered the woman, You will not die, but Allahayam knows that at the time you eat of it, your eyes will then be open, and you will be like Allahayam, acquainted with both good and evil. And the woman, perceiving that the tree was functional for food and beautiful to the eyes and a tree stimulating to the intellect, she took some of its fruit and ate it, and gave some to her man near her, and he also ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they became aware that they were naked. They accordingly joined fig leaves together and made bindings for themselves. They then heard the sound of Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, walking in the garden in the ruach of the day. And the man and his woman hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, among the trees of the garden. But Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, called to the man, saying, Where are you? And he replied, I heard sounds of your voice calling out in the garden, and perceiving that I was naked, I hid myself. And then he asked, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded that you should not eat? And the man replied, The woman whom you have gifted to me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate it. Why did you do that? Yahweh Allahayam asked the woman, and the woman answered, The serpent deceived me, and I ate it. Yahweh Allahayam, the ever-living Allahayam, accordingly said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you shall be accursed more than all the cattle, and more than all the wild beasts of the field. You shall crawl upon your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. I will also cause antagonism between you and the woman, and between your progeny and her progeny. He shall wound your head, and you shall wound his heel. But to the woman he said, I will increase your sorrows and your joys. You shall give birth to children with pain, but your longing shall be for your man, and he shall rule over you. Obviously you can comment a lot here, but I have put forward the theory based on what I've read in other books. One of the books I love is the Gospel of James of Yaakov. And it was one of the very early pre-Catholic. It was, even though the Catholic Church uses it, it was pre-Catholic Church. And it talks in there specifically that Yahusha, of course, Yahshua, that he was obviously in the womb of Mary, but then he didn't slide down the chute He just was born. He just appeared as a light in the room. So I put forward the theory that even though you know, a woman's body, which is amazing, women's bodies are designed to basically bring forth these children, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. How anybody could look at that and say there's no creator just is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it at all. But the idea is that the pain of childbearing means that they were being born in a method now that was not originally intended. So, being that, Adam and Eve or Chatwaha, they were in these glorified bodies. They were clothed with the Ruach HaKodesh, with wisdom. And now they had lost their glorious state and they were going down into fleshly bodies after this. So no longer were they going to have these spiritual bodied children as well. Then to Adam, he said, because you have listened to the voice of your covenant woman, have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, eat not of it. I will set apart the ground for your cultivation. In sorrow you shall eat from it every day of your life. It shall grow thorns and briars for you, but you shall have the plants of the field for food. In the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread until you return to the ground from which you were taken. For dust you are, and to the dust you shall return. The Adam then gave to his covenant woman the name Chatwaha, because she was the mother of all life. For Adam also and his covenant woman, Yahuwah Elohayim, the ever-living, made clothing of skins and dressed them. Won't be covering the Aramaic Targum tonight, but this is always envisioned to be like sheepskin or something like that, or ram, some clean animal. Which would also imply that Yahweh had to go out and actually kill this animal. But if you read the Aramaic Targum, which I've covered many times, it specifically says that the serpent shed his skin and they clothed him in the actual skin of the serpent, which this was then passed down to Ham eventually, and then to Nimrod after the flood. Yahweh Elohim, the ever-living, also said, now Adam will exist like one of ourselves, acquiring knowledge of both good and evil. Therefore, it may be that he will stretch out his hand and take also the tree of lives and eat of it and live forever. Yahweh Elohim, the ever-living, consequently expelled him from the Garden of Eden in order to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he stationed at the east of the Garden of Eden Ha-Cherubim, the divine watchers, with the flaming sword to guard the path to the tree of life. So there, before the Enoch incident in Genesis 6, which of course I'm referencing the actual book of Enoch, you have here embedded within the Paleo the Watchers. So the Watchers, and the Watchers aren't all bad guys. I think they have such a, it's such a bad ring to the name, the Watchers, right? Because they're watching you and they're evil, but there were good watchers too, and there are still good watchers set over us. All right, chapter 4. Now you guys can see I'm actually pretty calm tonight. I'm like, cool. Like if I just read through chapter 6 and that's all there is, fine. Because like I said, you can go source all this. We did studies on this for the last year, all this stuff, in-depth studies. Normally I would be just like hyperventilating right now, just going through all this, like things I want to tell you that are in here. I'm just like, cool. Yeah, we've covered it. Serpent seed. Yeah, we've been there. We did it. The feminine Ruach HaKodesh. We did it. We were there. Atlantis, recreation events. We did it. We were there. All right, Cain and Abel. Reading from the KJV. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruits of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. Quick, something that I just thought about for the first time in my life. It's going to happen a lot this year. I never picked up on this. Maybe I heard it 1,000 times from other people, and I'm just slow to learn. But it is interesting that it appears to me that even though Abel here is, he's taken on this kind of messianic role, right? Like he's the keeper of the sheep and he's killed off, just like Joshua was. You can see that very clearly. Um, Adam was never said that he was going to be a keeper of sheep. He was going to till the ground and there'd be thistles and thorns and it would be painful for him. It seems to me that Cain here is taking on his father's, as the firstborn, he's taking on his father's job. Just want to point that out. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Now, again, it just used the sin word there, and there is no sin apart from a transgression of the Torah. And you could actually see here the Torah being enacted. We'll be talking about this all year. And so what Moses is doing here is he's setting up these within the family quilt, starting with Yahweh, going down to Adam, then to Cain and Abel, and of course Seth, all the way down. He's setting up these different, morally, he's setting up these different situations in which you see how the Torah, which isn't brought out to Sinai, is actually playing out in their lives, right? And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. I don't know about you guys. I've heard this story my entire life, but you always know it's coming. You're like, that Abel is not going to live to see the end of the chapter, but nevertheless, it always has that. I get that tension when I read it, like it's coming, and then there he is, this death scene. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not him. Am I my brother's keeper? Which is a play on words on, I believe, on Abel himself. And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground, which we can source that in Enoch. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tellest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto Yahweh, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth. And from thy face shall I be hidden. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And Yahweh said unto him, Therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Yahweh, and he dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he built a city. There's already some great dualism right here, because this is not the Enoch. This is a completely different Enoch that is building a city of Enoch. And of course, I think this is contrasting New Jerusalem, which is another city of Enoch. And he called, and this is, of course, is the kind of the Masonic lineage here. And he called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And it's Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methusael, and Methusael begot Lamech, and Lamech took unto him two wives. The names of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. Why do we need to know about his wives right here? And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all, such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare two. I mean, how would Moses even know this if they were all killed off in the flood? It sounds like quite the renaissance is happening in this family too. They're developing harps and organs and tents and all sorts of stuff. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer of brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah, which is a very peculiar, strange. I mean, why would Moses take the time to tell you about a sister? I mean, we don't hear about Seth's sisters, Cain and Abel's. We don't hear about any of their sisters, but we hear about Tubal-Cain's sister, Naamah. Well, the answer to that is because Naamah was Noah's wife. So, of course, within this family quilt, we see the sons of Seth and the sons of Cain separated down these different lines. You would think, again, like I've asked, this is one of the things I have asked young earth creationists. I've sat in their office of like doctors and, astronomers, and I won't give their names, but I've sat in their office at, the Ark Encounter, and I've asked them this question, not to be cocky or rude. I'm just like really desires to know the response, and they're like, we don't know. It's weird. It's weird, man. Don't read too much into it. And like, you guys are supposed to be like the answers in Genesis people. I thought you had answers for it. They don't have any answers at all. But I'm telling you, it's because this is a family quilt, and it separates with Cain and Seth, but it comes back together with Noah, with Naamah taking on. And that's why Noah and of course Moses would have known all about with what Tubal-Cain did, and what I don't know, the guy who invented living in tents and invented the flutes and whatever, all this stuff. Like, they knew all this. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken to my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. So we know that he killed Cain. We can know that because he's quoting from what Yahweh said of anyone who kills Cain. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again. So let's go back to Adam's lineage. That I just said that because obviously we're not covering serpent seed tonight, but Cain is the son of Satan. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of Yahweh. Now that's another really provocative line there, because it's like, wait a second, like, wait. So with Enos, men began to call on the name of Yahweh. What does that mean? Because I thought there were only like a few people. So we got Adam, Seth, Enos. So Enos is the grandchild of Adam. So what does he got? He's got like a couple uncles and, a few sisters. And like, what kind of men are we talking about here that are calling on the name of Yahweh? Clearly, there are other men on the earth, probably thousands. Probably, well, I don't know. I wasn't there, but let's just assume millions, maybe billions. We don't know how many people there were, but Enos sounds like one of those guys who, because Adam, of course, is a unique creation. I do believe he is Cro-Magnon, and I do believe that the other men on the earth were, not going to get too, 1800 sci-fi on you, like hunched over Ooga Booga Neanderthal caveman. But I do think that, there's something to that, right? And Enos sounds like an incredible missionary. He sounds like he was going out there living for Yah, and he was passionate. Religion was obviously born on the earth, spirituality, and he directed many people to righteousness, it sounds like. More than just his aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters at the Thanksgiving dinner table, if you get my drift. All right, let's read from the Paleo over here, chapter 4. Adam afterwards knew Chahwaha, his covenant woman, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain and said, I have been given a man from Yahweh, the ever-living. She afterwards gave birth to her brother Habel, and Habel became a shepherd of sheep, but Cain was a cultivator of the soil. And during the harvest time, Cain brought some of the produce of the ground as an offering to Yahweh, the ever-living. And Habel also brought of the best and the fattest of the sheep. And Yahweh, the ever-living, looked favorably upon Habel and his offering, but he did not regard Cain and his offering with favor. Now, one of the great conspiracy theories out there is that the entire Torah was rewritten by a later sect of the Jews to add pagan sacrifices into it, animal sacrifices that they were never intended to. Now, again, I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't see any really real textual evidence for this. A lot of speculation. But I want to point out here is that, even this story, like I would like to see what does this story originally look like, because it seems very apparent here that there were animal sacrifices at the very beginning. Now, setting aside the fact that, according to the Aramaic Targum, that Yahweh didn't kill an animal and that he, dressed them in the skin of the serpents. So I don't know if he, I'm under the impression that that's the legitimate story, but I'm under the impression this is the legitimate too, that that Abel would have had to literally kill a sheep and sacrifice it as an offering to Yahweh, and it was deemed good. Reading from the top, I guess. And Abel also brought of the best and the fattest of his sheep. And Yahweh, the ever-living, looked favorably upon Abel and his offering, but he did not regard Cain and his offering with favor. Cain, therefore, was very angry, and his countenance fell. Then Yahweh, the ever-living, asked Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do right, is there not approval? And if you do not do right, sin crouches at the door and awaits you, but you should conquer it." Another great, the thing about, I don't believe Yahweh would have said that last line to him if it was impossible for him to conquer his sin. He says, but you should conquer it, right? You can overcome the sin. So going from the whole serpent seed idea that Cain was the son of Satan, a lot of people who fall into that theory treat the serpent seed line like they're just straight up evil. They can have no redemption whatsoever. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and I believe that Cain could have totally been a righteous person if he had wanted to. And it seems like Yah is putting that opportunity for him to be here as well. When Cain was afterwards talking with his brother Abel, for those of you who have two sons, you know how that often goes. And they were together in the field. Maybe they needed a little adult supervision here. Cain rose up against his brother Abel and murdered him. Yahweh accordingly asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" But he replied, "I do not know. Am I my brother's guardian?" Yahweh the ever-living, however, answered. Obviously, he sounds very contemptuous here. Contempt of court, never a good thing. "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Therefore, you are cursed from the ground, which has opened her mouth to take in your brother's blood from your hand." We read in other books, like Adam and Eve, where the ground did not want to accept the body, and the ground kept vomiting the body up. When you cultivate the ground, it shall not yield up its wealth to you. You shall be a wanderer and a vagabond upon ha'aretz. But Cain answered to Yahweh, "My punishment is heavier than I can bear. Since you drive me today out from off the face of this land, I shall be deprived of your presence and will be a wanderer and a vagabond upon ha'aretz. And whoever meets me will kill me." But Yahweh, the ever-living, replied, "Not so. Whoever kills Cain shall be punished sevenfold." Therefore, Yahweh put a mark upon Cain so that he might not be attacked by anyone who met him. Now, this is one of the great mysteries out there. I've seen, so you guys have too. We've all seen so much speculation. Everyone has their theories on what the mark of Cain is. What I have put forward, based on what I've read, is that it was leprosy, and that leprosy is a spiritual condition, is like the mark of Cain, so to speak. That doesn't mean it's the correct position. I will say though, I do enjoy entertaining what I'm about to say. Someone just told me this the other day. I was sharing a video on the Patterson Gimlin film from 1967, the Sasquatch video from California. And there's a guy named M.K. Davis. He has dedicated his life to this video. He is the most amazing researcher. Blows your mind that this Sasquatch was a female with a baby. This is legitimate, not a dude in a monkey suit. Legitimate, real video. And someone, again, put forward the idea that Bigfoot is Cain. Now, that's of course assuming there's only one of them, but I actually kind of like that theory. I really do. I'm not telling you it is what it is, but I kind of like this idea. I use the word "like" there, I guess, but these Sasquatches are it's just a theory that they are a type of spiritual. They are a spiritual entity, but they're also a material entity. And they can't be captured. They can't be found. And people know that they're there, but they always evade them and they wander the earth, right? They can't settle down. They can't farm. Just like he said of Cain, you can't farm the ground, this kind of stuff. But they would imply that there are, others, female species and so on and so forth, and that they are able to reproduce. These are, of course, the wild men, the Yoslings, according to the Colburn. Interesting theory, something to think about. I don't really know. Cain accordingly went out from the presence of Yahweh, the ever-living, and lived in a land of exile on the eastern side of Eden, where Cain knew his covenant woman, and she conceived and gave birth to Hanuwak, that would be Enoch, and he built a village and named it after the name of his son, Hanuwak. So, according to that theory there, you have to also assume, I guess, that Bigfoot is building the city of Enoch here. And to Hanuwak, there was born Yarad, and Yarad produced Makayual, and Makayual produced Mathuua Sha'al, and Mathuua Sha'al produced Lamech. And Lamech took two women for himself. The name of the one was Adaha, and the name of the other Zalaha. This would be Ada and Zillah. And Adaha gave birth to Yabel, who was the originator of tent dwellers with cattle. And his brother's name was Yahwabel. He was the originator of all those who play the kinnor, harp, and wind instruments. Zalaha also gave birth to Thubal-Cain, the improver of every work in copper and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Nu'amaha. And Lamech, addressing his women, said, Adaha and Zalaha, listen to my voice. Women of Lamech, listen to my speech, for I killed a man who wounded me and a youth who hurt me. If Cain had sevenfold protection, then 77 should be that of Lamech. Now, I think that the Sasquatch theory kind of seems to be born out of Jasher, because it gives a more descriptive kind of picture here of, not recognizing that Cain was a human, and he's like walking through the woods, kind of like the Patterson Gimlin film where he's like, he's like got this like looking sideways, got this stride, and he kills him right there. And Adam knew his covenant woman again. She gave birth to a son and named him Shath. For Allah Hayam, she said, has given me another son in the place of Habel, who was murdered by Cain. And to Shath a son was born, and he gave him the name of Anuwash. Men then began to call upon the name of Yahweh, ever living. All right, moving on to chapter 5. And apologies if my video is, I know my voice is coming across fine to you. I don't know if I'm freezing up for you guys tonight. I think my camera is flickering on this end. I can, as you guys know and have grown acquainted now with me going across Europe, I just never know in place to place. Last night, my video quality was exceptional here. And, tonight it's not as good. You never really know. When you're live, all sorts of bad things can happen. So chapter 5 of Genesis, of Bereshith, the descendants of Adam. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and he called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters, and all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat Enos, and Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalalel. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and he begat Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he begat Jared 830 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 800 years, 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which Yahweh hath cursed." And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Reading from the Paleo. This is the birth book of men from the time that Elohim created men, making them to represent Elohim. One of the things I have pointed out, and I don't know if this theory is true or not, but it is worth mentioning again, is these, I think they're called Toldoth points. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that. I don't have the notes in front of me. But in Genesis, which is again stitched together like a family quilt, there are these quotes about the book of the generations or whatever of such and such. These are the generations of such and such. So right here we see that this is the book of the generations of Adam. And we see this several times throughout Genesis, going all the way into early Exodus. And one of the theories about this, and I think it's a good one, is that Moses is actually quoting his sources. There are some problems with that theory, because then he's never quoting from, say, Enoch, for example. And I do believe that Enoch, the book, existed at that time. So give you guys an example. If you've ever watched Star Wars, I think everyone here probably has. I can't actually assume that, because Jenna, if you're watching, she's never watched Star Wars. So there are some of you who've never watched it. But if you do watch it, okay, you go through the 2 hours, and then, they're all like up on the stage for the curtain call at the end. And then it cuts out, it goes black, and it says directed by George Lucas, right? Or the Empire Strikes Back say directed by Lawrence Kasdan, whatever. And you go through that. And so that would be like the Toldoth point, where it's telling you all the stuff before this. This is, like Moses saying, I am sourcing this from Adam. Kind of interesting theory. And so he would also, later on, the next one he'd be sourcing is, I'm sourcing this from Shem. This is the birth book of men from the time that Elohim created men, making them to represent Elohim, constituting them male and female. And he did barak them, and naming them by the name Adam upon the day of their creation. Adam, when he was 130 years old, produced a representative of himself, like his own shadow, and gave him the name of Shath. And the lifetime of Adam after the birth of Shath was 800 years, during which time sons and daughters were born to him. So the whole lifetime of Adam was 930 years when he died. And Shath was 105 years old when Anu-Wash was born to him. And Shath, after the birth of Anu-Wash, lived 807 years and had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Shath was 912 years when he died. And Anu-Wash lived 90 years when Canaan was born to him. And Anu-Wash, after the birth of Canaan, lived 850 years and had sons and daughters born to him. And all the lifetime of Anu-Wash was 905 years, and then he died. And Canaan lived 70 years when Mahalalel was born to him. And Canaan, after Mahalalel was born to him, lived 830 years, and he had sons and daughters born to him. So the whole lifetime of Canaan was 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel, living until he was 65 years of age, had Yered born to him. And Mahalalel, after the birth of Yered, lived 830 years, and sons and daughters were born to him. And the whole lifetime of Mahalalel was 895 years when he died. And Yered lived until he was 162 years of age when Hanuwak, or Enoch, was born to him. And after the birth of Hanuwak, Yered lived 800 years and had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Yered was 962 years, and he died. And Hanuwak lived until the age of 65 years when Methuselah, that's quite the name there, was born to him. And Hanuwak walked with Allahayam after Methuselah had been born to him 300 years, and sons and daughters were born to him. And the whole lifetime of Hanuwak was 365 years, and Hanuwak walked with Allahayam, and he did not die, Allahayam having taken him to himself. And Methuselah, having lived until he was 187 years of age, had Lamech born to him. And Methuselah, after Lamech had been born to him, lived 782 years, having had sons and daughters born to him. And the whole lifetime of Methuselah was 969 years, and then he died. And Lamech lived until he was 182 years of age when a son was born to him, to whom he gave the name of Nuch, or Noah, saying, "He comforts in our labor and in the trouble of our hands upon the land which was denounced by Yahweh, ever living." And Lamech, after Nuch was born to him, lived until the age of 595 years, sons and daughters being born to him. And the whole lifetime of Lamech was 777 years when he died. And Nuch was 500 years old when Shem, Ham, and Japheth were born to him. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's saying here that all three sons were born when he was 500, or he turned 500 and then he had gradually these three sons. Something to think about. Now, this is where in the Torah portions, we're coming up on the last 15 minutes, guys, and I don't know if you can tell here. I'm on page 23 of 107 pages. Those going up to 107 pages was just notes that I wanted to go over with you guys, just like a refresher course on some of the things we covered in these first 6 chapters. And you see that's probably not going to happen. But this is where I think whoever came up with these Torah portions, they were being a little sadistic when they decided to throw Genesis. Like, they should have saved Genesis 6 for the second portion with Noah. Contextually, it's like, really, we just went through like the creation account and all this stuff, and now you got to throw in the Nephilim in there too. Come on, really? Are we, let's be real, guys. So let's just, okay. And it's not that, it's 8 verses here, but it is the whole story. Let's go ahead and read this from the KJV. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. And there were giants in the earth in these days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And he repented, Yahweh, that he had made man on the earth. That is just like one of those theological things that we've talked about in our group that I feel, has not really been tapped into by theologians. Maybe somebody out there has totally like stuck the landing on this and he's settled it, and it makes the most like brilliant sense. I've just never heard of it and read it. But we've talked about this before, that Yahweh would repent of something he did. It's a really interesting theological concept. And it grieved him at his heart, and Yahweh said, I will destroy man whom I have created. And he is stepping up and taking responsibility for what he did. Whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. And notice here, I was picking up on this specifically this week when I was studying, that he didn't just repent of making man, because that's always emphasized. He actually repented here of making the beast and the creeping thing and the fowls of the air. Now, when we get into extra biblical texts like Jasher Jubilees, it talks about how they were corrupted as well by men. One more verse. Hold on. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. All right, so let's read from the Paleo over here. But when corrupt men increased upon the surface of Arats, and sons and daughters were born to them, then the sons of the Allahayam admired the daughters of men who were beautiful, and they took to themselves women from all they desired. Consequently, Yahweh, the ever-living, declared, my Ruach shall not call out to man forever, for he is sinful flesh, but they shall have 120 years. Now that is, let me actually read this again from the KJV. And Yahweh said, and the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. I really, really like the way, now, I guess it says pretty much the same thing, striving, but I really like the way Pamela stressed this here. My Ruach shall not call out to man forever. So you get this sense that the reason mankind is living to be like 900 and something years old is because it's telling you what the purpose of life is right there. We just covered this a few weeks ago, what the purpose of life is. Our purpose is to embrace our heavenly calling and live the Edenic vision, to conform to the image of who Yahweh is. So according to this, they were on this earth for like 900 years in order to give them that opportunity to do that. But now he's looking at this and going, yeah, that's not working at all, because the longer they live, the more evil they become. The more they take this earth and they corrupt it for their purposes of their comfort and pleasure and so on and so forth. So he's basically, I'm reading this here. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to cut it off at 120 years. And if they can't figure it out, if they have 120 years and they still can't figure it out, then there's no reason in striving with them longer than that. Do you guys read it the same way? That's how I read it. The giants, or the Nephilim, were upon the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of Allahayam, or the sons of the Allahayam, had intercourse with the daughters of men, and they bore them mighty men who were men of renown of very long life. War of the Titans territory there. And Yahweh, the ever-living, saw that the sin of Adam increased upon earth, and it grieved his heart. Yahweh therefore said, I will sweep away Adam, whom I created from off the surface of the earth, from man to beast and reptile and birds of the skies, for I regret that I made them. But Nuck found favor in the presence of Yahweh, the ever-living. This concludes this week's reading. It took almost 2 hours to get through that. So I'm just going to, with whatever time I have left, say 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to try to skim through this as much as I can, rapid fire. Remember that guy in the 80s? He sold like the micro cars or whatever, but he used to like talk really fast. I wish I could talk like him right now and just take you through this. Anyways, probably made 20 something videos just dissecting Genesis 1 through really 1 and 2 and 3 mostly. But showed you that the Torah was the first creation. Not going to read that because there's not time. That would take the rest of my time. I showed you that Gehenna, or the lake of fire, was created before the first day. So he plants paradise, he plants Gehenna, and he puts them on each side of his throne. And it's basically like the principle of the red and the blue pill. He offers both. He's like, you can take the red, you can take the blue, or you could go to paradise or you go to the lake of fire. You have that option. I'll give you 900 years of life to figure that out. Oh, sorry, that's not working because you're just so evil. So I'll cut it down to 120 years, but that's your choice. So the choice was always ours before the creation of the world. Pretty crazy to think about. How many of you think about that principle when you talk to other people? I have grown more and more accustomed to being completely okay if people reject the truth. And understand what I'm saying there when I say the truth. I'm not talking about what I believe is true. Because there are many, because, when we get into this thing, well, I just believe the truth and you don't believe it. It's like, no, I just disagree with you. I believe, I don't believe what you believe is true. But, like people who are pursuing the truth, you know what I'm talking about? You can see it on people. There are people who are clearly not pursuing the truth. I'm okay with that. You offer them the blue pill, let them go on their way. They're not interested. Even if you offer them the red pill, they still may not agree with you, but they might be truth seekers. All right. So we have here a lot of passages that I went through. This is a small taste of Gehenna before the beginning. I showed you Tartarus at the beginning as well. And then we can know the end from the beginning. Oh, that's a little bit on the Phoenix there. I covered the Phoenix as well. This is, we covered recreation, how the earth was without form and void. It was it tohu? Is that the word that I use? Can't really remember. I have it in my notes right here. A lot of recreation events. So, oh yeah, we went into the silence. I really like this part here where there was a silence on the earth in the darkness, and that silence is an indicator that there was a destruction event, and that we see the same silence going into the millennial kingdom. That this comes from Second Ezra. Second Ezra has a lot to say about it, and how the earth was destroyed and there was this total silence over the earth. Really interesting. Here's some from when I went over like Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu and all that, and showing you. Now, at the end of the day, I don't know if this is a pre-Noah diluvian city or if this is a pre-Genesis creation city. I don't know. Again, I wasn't there. We can definitely come to the conclusion that this was this is not evolution, that this was an actual city that was destroyed by floodwater. Ironically, at the bottom of the ocean. This is off Cuba here. Here's another one from Japan. This one's really trippy. I mean, look at those huge stones just off of Japan. Crazy stuff. All right. And then, wow, there's a lot of pictures there of that. Here's where we talk about the desolation of Nakash. This comes from Sephir of the Two Pearls, chapter 1, that Nakash caused the earth to become desolate. And his nature was created to be in opposition for divine reasons. So he was intended to be the accuser, to separate from the wheat from the chaff, and to tempt people. We covered pre-existence. This is a subject I love. I could, if I had to make be a channel where I just make the same video, because some channels do this. There are some YouTube channels, they just talk about the same thing for like years at a time. I noticed these trends. If I ever did that, I think this is what I would talk about. I would just talk about pre-existence, what it means for us now, meaning of life stuff, soulmates. I love this topic. And of course, the masculine and the feminine divine, how that plays out. So that was one I love talking about. And of course, we know that according to Jubilees, I don't quote from Jubilees too much, but I really do like the beginning creation account where it talks about all spirits, all spirits were created by the Father spirits on the first day. And this is what which separates us from the Nephilim, who, according to Enoch, were not created by the Father of spirits. They were never intended. And so that's why they wander the earth, and there is no place for them. They can't go to heaven. They can't go to Sheol. They wander the earth. So a lot of stuff there. I covered that we are the sons of God. We are the sons of Allah Hayam. And that then begs the question, are we also the fallen entities? Now, I never know what's going to trigger people. And you know what? I get triggered sometimes too. You know what triggers me is stupid conspiracy theories. They trigger me. There's a lot of them out there. And everybody has the right to advocate their stupid theories, just as I have the right to advocate mine. That being said, this triggered people, and I was really surprised by this. Some people really freaked out at this, but I just asked the question earlier this year: where are all the fallen entities of Satan? There should be a lot of them, and I showed you some. I showed you how how many even demons who were fallen entities, or the Nephilim, the disembodied spirits, the Nephilim, they were thrown into the abyss. And Satan is like, well, wait a second, I need some of them. And it's like, well, wait a second, well, you need the demons from the Nephilim? Because I thought you had all these fallen angels. Where did they go? Where did they go? We know that there are, the 70, and they're kind of fallen, and the Watchers, but those weren't the ones that fell with, at the very beginning, the division of light and darkness. So I'm connecting this with preexistence and saying, what if we were those? I know this is like maybe an icky feeling for some people. They don't want to rectify that, but I showed the passages where Yahshua says that we were the bastard sons of Allah Hayam, and that we are here to reclaim that again. We are here to be given that choice. So again, I don't have the answer for that, but I think there's some good contextual evidence for that. We've covered the 5 Satans, and Azazel, I believe, here is the same as Gadril, who is the one who tempted Chahwaha, or Eve, in the garden. Made a whole case for that. We talked about the light, he will exist. I did a whole thing on this and how when the light was brought forward, and I've never really taken a position on whether or not Yahshua was created in that moment. He does have a father and a mother, just like we do. So I assume that he, this is again another one of those issues that really just gnaws at people. Some people, if you suggest maybe Yahshua did have a beginning, I don't know. I wasn't there, right? And I don't have like just the clear text in front of me. Nevertheless, I did do a whole study on when I do believe he came forward with the light. And in that moment, it's irrelevant to me whether he was born or not in that moment, but he was declared the heir of creation, right? And this is when Satan tripped and just he led a lot of people astray. And this is where we get Yahshua in the Gospel of John repeating language when he talked to the Pharisees, where I think it was the same thing that he said to Satan, like, I came from my Father. I speak from my Father. I haven't done anything that I haven't seen my Father do. And you, Azazel, are a liar. You are not of my Father, because if you were of my Father, you would act as I. I think he had that same conversation when the light and darkness was separated. I think it was the same exact thing we see in the gospel. All right, what else do I have here? Let's just skip all this. Yeah, skip all this. What is this? Satan and seed reject the light of the world. Okay, we're still on that. That's the speech by Yahshua there. Satan's impossible thought, we covered that, which was to ascend up to the throne. I did also cover on, this was great. A great Princess Bride moment where I quoted from Prince I got to go to that castle this year too. It was fun. I didn't tell you guys about that, but Prince Humperdinck and Wesley talking, where I basically said it's like straight from a script of what's going to happen to Satan. You had to have been there. Satan refused to worship Adam. I covered that. I showed how that the Quran also covers that. We covered serpent seed, which surprised me when I realized that this last year. It was earlier this summer, and it was like maybe 5, 6 months ago at this point. And I said, shockingly, because I've been pushing serpent seed, I've written books on it. I've been talking about this for at least half a decade now, and I had never put out a formal teaching on it in a video. So that was the first time we did that this year based on Genesis 3. You had it been there. At least that was I think a 2-part series. This was a fun one. I still have people approaching me and talking to me about this. The idea of that we are in the mind. We are the mind in the mind of Allah Hayam. And I said, instead of thinking the classic line, I think therefore I am, that it would be to be is to be perceived. The book I just put out, Stay Up All Night, that book is loaded with a lifetime of all my thoughts and teachings. It's all embedded in there. And one of the themes that is kind of an underlying theme that you, like, if you know to look for it, you might pick it up. It's this idea of that we are in, basically we exist in God's mind. Basically, so the idea is to be is to be perceived. So if he does not perceive us, then we will not exist, right? Depart from me, I don't know who you are. Those are like the worst things, the worst thing we could ever hear from Allah Hayam, for him to say that, I don't know you. Who are you? Go into your despair and torment. So that was, covering the matrix and all that stuff there. There's where I backed some of it up in Second Enoch. Of course, I did a lot of the Cobran as well. Oh, this was a great one. I love this. Did this almost 1 year ago. The Ruach Hakamaha, wisdom, our mother, showing that she was there at the beginning of time. Wisdom was created before anything else. So, I mean, if she was created, then I think that Yahshua was as well. It would be weird that he would have a mother and that he pre-existed his mother. It just is a little odd. So if you can make a case that wisdom was created from the Father the same way Eve was created from Adam, then it makes sense that they had a child, and also they did as well. Though it's important to note that in everything I've read, wisdom, Hakamaha, that she is a virgin, that she is undefiled, she is set apart, she is a Betula, a virgin. And the same way that we see, Miriam, the mother of Yahshua, maybe she and Joseph had intercourse and children. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't peeping under, from the closet. But I don't have a problem if she was. I really don't. Protestants like reel from this because it's like, oh, this is so Catholic, and it's like, well, is it Orthodox too? Maybe. I don't really know, but I don't find that threatening at all. So I have a lot here on wisdom. Let's keep looking. What else we covered this year? I think that's the end of it right there. And there's just a few notes I picked out. And I thought if there was time, I would read from some of these. I don't have time. So that's it, guys. That's full speed ahead. Like I said, I mean, going through the Torah portions, if you have never been a part of one of them before, I'm going to encourage you to, I'm inviting you to be a part of these with me this year as we go through the Torah. What is the Torah? The Torah is the instructions in righteous living. It is how we will be living in heaven. So if you choose not to live it now, then I don't know, maybe whatever, you'll decide to do it in heaven, I guess. But better to do it now. And the Torah is the mirror reflection of the face of our Father in heaven, Allah is his very character. I have a lot to say on it. I can't wait to go through it this year with you guys again. And yeah, that's it. So now every single week, I'm going to be back in America very soon. So every single week at 7:00 Eastern time, which is from where I'm sitting is still a couple hours away, or at least an hour away. But 7:00 Eastern every single week, we meet in the Unexpected Cosmology Discord group. I encourage you. You have an invite to come by, say hi. You can ask questions. You can talk about biblical stuff. You can talk about conspiratorial stuff, politics, whatever you want. It is what I call Kingdom Verse. All topics come together because I believe that the Bible itself covers all those topics. It covers everything. It covers everything from the world stage to politics to spirituality, the mysteries of heaven, all that stuff. All topics go. And come on by, guys. I want to meet you, talk with you. I love to hang with you guys. Good night, everybody. Let's do this again sometime.
Imagine a kingdom lost in the mists of time, and the sinister plot to keep it that way. Our Father in heaven, sitting in his timeless abode, created the past and the future for those of us who live on the earth. He made the framework and the order. The future is kept hidden, but to a special few. What kind of evil interferes with that order and hides the past as well? This story is our family's inheritance that we now wish to share with as many as possible. We are acutely aware that there is a worldwide deception underway, which desperately needs a counter. Remember, this is the time of the little season. It is the short time allowed to be governed by the father of lies.